Okay, I'm gonna make a suggestion. Miss Scarlet, in the lounge, with the candlestick. Look, Duke, if you don't want to play, you don't have to humor me. You can just. Wait, no, 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 come back, humor me, please. Do you want to play a game with me? Welcome to the Red Sweater. My name is jshetina. I'm a writer and Sims 4 apologist. I love murder mysteries, I love classic movies, I love horror movies, and I love competition reality TV. And of course, I love The Sims. I like to build the houses, and once I put people in them, I lose interest because, I spend all this time building these opulent houses just for a bunch of Sims to go and piss all over them. But I've been looking for a way to make The Sims more in line with, I guess, my aesthetic. And I think I found that way. So, without further ado, welcome to did someone say budget? Simdunit, a Sims 4 mystery game, is a semi-interactive, deductive mystery card game involving The Sims 4 and a custom deck of cards that I've made. The game features a murder mystery involving 12 Sims locked in a house or other secluded location. They are murdered one by one after each round of play. So if this works well, there are two games going on. One is literally in the Sims game, where their social interactions can dictate how the story moves forward. But there's also the game that you're playing at home, because every round I'll reveal evidence cards, and if you follow along based on those evidence cards, you can figure out who the murderer is for yourself. For the first installment of Simdunit, a Sims 4 mystery game, I wanted to pay homage to one of my earliest hyperfixations, Clue. For those of you who don't know, Clue is a deduction game involving a murder mystery, a mansion, and a deck of cards. It heavily inspired this game. Let's be clear. So this first and hopefully not last edition of Simdunit has a Clue theme. I was inspired by the art and overall premise and house layout from the 2023 edition, which has some of the best character art for the franchise that I've seen in a long time. Now, before I go into the actual rules, let's just meet our players and immerse ourselves in the world of Simdunit. We join 12 distinguished guests as they converge on Tudor Mansion, the secluded estate of billionaire Bowden Body Black. On the itinerary, a week of drinks, dinner, and games. None of them know each other personally, but as prominent members of their community, their reputations precede them. They make polite introductions over martinis. They enjoy a decadent dinner of Dover sole and a rich butter sauce. As far as games, though, Black has only one in mind: blackmail. One by one, he reveals their most scandalous secrets. Then one by one, they begin to die. In this twisted game of cat and mouse, they must catch the killer before it's too late. But who is the cat? And who are the mice? I mean, what can I tell you? This is a classic murder mystery setup. I mean, you know the deal. It's a rich guy everyone hates, and he has all those people who hate him over to his house for dinner. Like an asshole. Like he's just daring someone to kill him. And they will. Speaking of, let's meet our suspects. Miss Vivian Scarlett is a journalist. She's gained a lot of credibility super early in her career. Her specialty is the expose. So if you have been up to no good, she will unearth it and she will have receipts. She has brought down mobsters and moguls alike. Scarlett is currently working on an expose on Bowden Black himself, and she accepted this invitation to come tonight because she's curious as to whether he's found her out somehow. Colonel Algernon Mustard is a war hero. He and Bowden Black are old military school buddies, both from rich families. The Colonel is a younger son in his family, so I don't think he inherited the family business or the money, and the military was like his quickest route to any notability. Got a bunch of medals, and the check recently cleared on the advance for his memoirs. He loves telling stories about the war, whatever war he was in. Absolute gas bag of a human. Like, I imagine he is stereotypically British, makes a lot of vaguely British sounds, like, yeah. Okay, so this is Chef Blanca White. I went very literal with the name here, as these games tend to. For like 10 years, she's been the executive chef of Black's luxury restaurant in the city. I think she worked for him right out of culinary school. He saw her audacity in the kitchen and her passion and thought, I want that on my payroll. Of course, Black is a terrible boss. He doesn't have any feeling for innovation, and Chef White is all about innovation. She's never been invited to Black's house before as a guest, only as a chef. She is cooking tonight, though. She just gets to eat with the guests this time. So Mayor Baldwin Green is the mayor of the city in which our story is set, Hugh Ridge. He is a classic politician. He's got a nice smile, he's charming, he spends his days kissing hands and shaking the babies. Now he's here because Bowden Black is a huge campaign donor, huge. So he can't turn down an invitation. Green's a nice guy, super sleazy. He has a wife, doesn't stop him from flirting. He's on his second term as the mayor, and he's eyeing a third term. From his cold, dead hands, they will take this job. I think he has his eye on a Senate seat. But he's only like 40 at this point. When he's like 65 and like wants to relax, he'll run for a Senate seat. Solicitor Liz Peacock. She is Bowden Body Black's personal lawyer. She's the kind of attorney who chases high-profile cases and clients, and she seriously loves when her clients get in trouble because the courtroom is where she shines. Honestly, she's like a hound dog. Like, the courtroom is her arena. She owns it. She's also incredibly fashionable. And she has her eye on all the trends. She has a lot of gay friends. She wears them like jewelry. Surrounded, flanked by flamers. Okay, so Professor Calvin Plum, this is a dated reference, bear with me. He reminds me of Henry Fonda in The Lady Eve. He's like this handsome professor who's incredibly socially awkward and doesn't realize that everyone is into him. He's this professor of anthropology, specifically archaeology and like ancient artifacts. He works with a lot of ancient artifacts. He can spot a forgery a mile away, and that will become important later. He's smart, but he's a little awkward. He spends a lot of time in archives and libraries, like by himself, and he has this dream to go to Egypt on a research trip, and he kind of hopes that Bowden Black will help him with that. Okay, so we're moving into the expanded universe of Clue characters now. These are characters that have sort of come and gone throughout the years, that are outside of the basic six. And also 2 of these I actually have basically invented myself to round out the rainbow. Countess Melba Peach was raised on a cattle farm in Alabama. She went to school in New York, somehow elbowed her way into a high society party, and met a visiting diplomat. He turned out to be a count, and thus Melba Peach became the Countess of Fuchsia. She hosts parties. She's like a very respectable socialite and philanthropist. She's fiercely protective over her place in society. Like, she's sweet, she's still got her southern drawl, but she will do what it takes to stay in this position. Reverend Alphonse Brunette is the local religious leader. He's got rugged good looks and charisma, but he's also kind of like haunted and mysterious. And all of this combined makes him like 1950s melodrama levels of like forbidden love hot. Like, it's a problem. The church has recently gotten air conditioning. There's no reason for everyone to be as sweaty as they are. He's basically led the church's charity initiative for the past year since he arrived. They've raised like thousands. He's very out of place at this party to look at him. You know, dresses very muted. The tailoring is less, you know, the fits are not as expensive, but he finds a way to fit in. Okay, so Senator Cecilia Orange is the definition of main character energy. She is a senator, a terrible one. I think she started out fighting for the little guy, but she's since completely gone rogue. Like, her voting pattern is incomprehensible. She just seems to come to the Senate chamber to spout off one-liners and showcase her outfits. She does TikTok dances instead of doing what her constituents ask of her. Honestly, if she weren't in the government, she might be fun to hang out with when the rage doesn't threaten to boil over. Cecilia Orange is a character of my own creation. I wanted 12 characters, and I felt there needed to be an orange character, and I couldn't help but make her a menace to society. Sergeant Clarence Gray is haunted by his job. He's haunted by the violence and the depravity, but he's also kind of an idealist, too. Like, he believes in justice, he believes in the justice system, and he believes in his place in it, but he's just kind of hard to be around. He doesn't play well with others. And he finds other people hard to be around as well. Sergeant Gray is one of my least favorite Clue characters, but I decided to ratchet up the paranoia and give him a haunted backstory. So let's see how that stirs things up. Madame Rosalind Rose worked for Bowden Black for like 2 decades, and she's probably the best friend he has, and she can't stand him. She was tolerant because the paycheck was good, but as soon as her first occult-themed TikTok video took off, she left the job and never looked back. But he sees this as a betrayal because he's nuts, and he actually holds this against Madame Rose. She thought the dinner invitation for tonight might be a peace offering, but it's not. It's not. She also wears gloves because she says that when she touches things, she gets like flashes of memories and feelings from anyone who's ever touched that object. Is she really psychic? I don't know. Her followers seem to think so.
Yibs.
And finally, if he can find his way into the house, I had to restart the game at this point, actually, because Dr. Black was unable to get inside. Dr. Jasper Black is Bowden Body Black's nephew, a plastic surgeon with a great reputation, professionally. Dr. Black is a gay menace, okay? Like David Rose from Schitt's Creek never had to move to Schitt's Creek. Like, he just stayed where he was and didn't have to change. Everything that has ever happened in the history of humankind is filtered through his brain as something that is about him or something that is not about him. Recently, he's been developing a weight loss drug that could be huge money. So that's what he's got going on. And he's just in time for dinner. I just noticed now that there are 13 here at dinner. Surely there's no omen attached to having 13 people at a dinner table. Well, as megalomaniacal billionaires tend to do in these stories, Bowden Black uses dinner time to monologue at his guests. But before he starts, Miss Scarlet has to figure out where the fuck she's going. Ah yes, I suppose you're wondering why I've graced you all with this rarefied invitation to my luxurious home, isn't it gorgeous? Well, time is money, so let's cut the shit. I'm about to blackmail all of you. Let's start with you, Miss Scarlet. You've made a career in a dying industry by weaponizing your envy of the rich and powerful. But how would your editors feel if they knew your anonymous sources were paid handsomely for their quotes? Colonel Mustard. Algie, my old friend, allow me to be among the first to congratulate you on the advance you received for your memoirs. But did you leave in the part where you were nowhere near the battle you won your most prestigious medal for? Chef Blanca White, when I plucked you out of obscurity, you were fresh and ripe with promise. Now you're bitter and withered. After all I've given you, did you really think you could steal thousands of dollars from my restaurant without my noticing? Mayor Baldwin Green, I've proudly donated generously to all of your campaigns, but contrary to public belief, I am not your biggest donor. No, that would be the Emerald crime family, wouldn't it? How much of their dirty money buys your silence? Liz Peacock, my lawyer, my confidant, my savior. I do have to say, your tastes run a bit more expensive than mine. By now, a less refined person might have resorted to wearing the kinds of designer knockoffs you've made a fortune peddling on the black market. Professor Calvin Plum, you, my friend, have an unmatched talent for spotting forgeries and counterfeits, but I do know that academia just doesn't pay like it used to. Is that why you turn to forging documents and diplomas for the right price? Dr. Black, Jasper, my nephew, you're renowned for your ability to hide imperfections. Just look at the x-rays from the drug trials you've been running. No one would ever know you altered them. Senator Cecilia Orange. Your critics might say that your voting record is erratic, if not downright incomprehensible. But there is one constant if you look hard enough. The price. $50,000 in unmarked bills should do it, no? Sergeant Clarence Gray. I've heard of your stellar record on the force. Your commitment to justice is extraordinary. Truly, no other man is as devoted to seeing justice done, even if it means planting evidence or perjuring yourself. It's all right, Sergeant. I admire men who know how to get things done. Madam Rose. Roz. Since you've left my employment, my office is in shambles, but you've really blossomed. Still, I have to wonder how your new following would feel if they found out just how much company money you wired to your offshore bank account over the years. They'd never see that one coming. Reverend, maybe you can clear up a small matter for me. Is your name Alphonse Brunette or is it Alfred Brown? Because Alfred Brown is wanted in 7 states for stealing church charity funds and for impersonating a member of the clergy. Surely it's just a coincidence. Countess Melba Peach. You, my dear, are proof that even the most lowborn among us can achieve greatness if they're desperate enough. Yes, you've been invited into some of the finest homes in America and Europe. And you've also smuggled some of the finest jewelry out of them. Now, if all of you would like to buy my silence, who am I to refuse good money? After all, look around. You're all in the same boat. Well, seeing as their host has graciously agreed to put them up for the week, there's no cell reception and there's no boat to take them back to shore, our guests settle in for the night. Stomachs full, but minds racing. The secrets that have been exposed tonight could end their careers, even their lives as they know it. And as our despicable host cleans up after his guests and suffers with the loneliness and solitude that only a man whose soul has been rotted by great wealth can feel in a house full of people, he has no idea that one of his guests has added murder to the week's agenda. Mr. Bowden, body black, billionaire and would-be blackmailer, has been murdered in his own ballroom. I mean, the impropriety is just confounding. Like, you invite a bunch of people into your house to blackmail them and they kill you? I mean, the absolute nerve. All right, sleuths. Get out your magnifying glasses and pour yourself a beverage, because it's time to solve this murder. But how, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. The game, which I will remind you again, is called Simdunit. A Sims 4 mystery game is split up into rounds, and each round has 3 phases. At the start of the game, I will draw and turn up one suspect card at random. That suspect will be the murderer for the entire game. Now, each suspect has 3 corresponding pieces of evidence, descriptors that are included on their respective cards. In this game, for example, the 3 descriptors indicate what crime the suspect has committed, what bedroom they're staying in, and what wing of the house that bedroom is in. So for example, say I draw Miss Scarlet's card at the beginning of the game. That means she is the murderer for the game. According to her card, she's guilty of bribery, she is staying in one of 4 bronze bedrooms, and that bedroom is in the east wing of the house. That means I have to take a bribery card, a bronze bedroom card, and an east wing card out of the evidence pile. Then I'll return Scarlet's card to the suspect card pile so she can be included in the action phase of the game. So the first phase of each round is the action phase. During the action phase, I will cycle through each sim and draw another suspect card. That suspect is the person I have to make that sim interact with next. I'll generally cycle through the sims twice per round, so that there's a healthy mix of socializing that happens. The second phase of each round is the evidence phase. In the evidence phase, I'll pull 3 evidence cards. Evidence cards have the descriptors on them that apply to several different suspects in the game. For example, bribery, bronze bedroom, and the East Wing evidence cards all correspond to Miss Scarlet, so we'll be revealing the other cards that correspond to the innocent suspects in this process. Now, the more evidence cards we draw, the more suspects we can eliminate, and the closer we get to pinning down that Scarlet is the killer. The third phase of each round is the elimination phase. That's when the murderer gets the chance to strike down one of the other guests. Their victim is decided by who the murderer dislikes the most, so that means social interactions may be crucial in figuring out who the killer is. That's also why the action phase is really important. It may help lead you to the killer based on their relationships and the impressions they make on the other Sims. Gameplay continues like this until 4 suspects remain. At that point, I will stop drawing evidence cards. The killer will continue on their murder spree until there are 2 suspects left. If, by process of elimination, we can deduce who the murderer is between them, the last innocent player will win. However, if we still don't know which one of them is the killer when there are only 2 left, the murderer claims their last victim and wins the game. In the rare event that the evidence cards reveal the murderer's identity while 5 or more suspects remain alive, the murderer will be caught and the surviving suspects will win. Alright, who will be the murderer for this first game? Let's find out. Okay, now I know the identity of the murderer, and I'm suddenly feeling the weight of having to keep this secret from you. I'm going to take the murderer's corresponding evidence cards out of the deck and try not to screw up and tell you who they are. For now, though, let's catch up with our suspects. The sun is rising over Tudor Mansion, and everyone is uneasy. This is sure to be a long week. But they have no idea yet just how long. They don't even know their host lies dead, and that soon most of them will join him. Well, that's not true, is it? One of them does know. Can you figure out who? Join me in the next episode for round 1. We'll have our first action phase, and I'll reveal 3 evidence cards that will hopefully get you closer to catching the killer. Until next time, happy hunting, whoever you are.